Now, Russian strikes there only continues unabated. It bleeds Ukraine for the 27th day. Destruction and devastation all across Ukraine that's been witnessed. Ukraine's besieged southern city, Kherson, we see completely battered. Residential buildings there have turned into complete ruins. Bruised and battered with relentless Russian attacks, civilians in Kherson are continuing to fight back, showing unprecedented resilience. Civilians in Kherson have hit the streets, protesting against invaders, only to be opened fire upon from the enemy troops. Kherson was one of the first cities to witness Russian troops on its streets. Making a symbolic move, the Russian army had removed Ukrainian flags from the city administration building on the 17th of March, amid heavy resistance from citizens as the besieged city refused to cooperate with enemy troops. The Russian forces even lost one of their top commanders amid battle for Kherson. Kiev tells a similar tale as Kherson. Russian hell birds have now left the Ukraine capital in shambles as Putin's missiles now continue to ravage civilian buildings. Amid a raging war, Ukrainian President Zelensky has warned that failure of peace talks would lead to a World War III-like situation if at all Russia does not stop.
На вашій площі, на вулицях ми були всі разом з вами, 40 мільйонів українців нашої держави, мільйони і мільйони українців у світі. Ми всі бачили, як ви стоїте, які ви. Ми всі відчули, як ви хочете повернути свободу на землі, де, споглядаючи чумацький шлях, чумаки ходили по сіль. Звичайні українці, а зараз борці, чоловіки і жінки, які піднімаються за нашу державу повсюди. На півдні, на сході, на півночі, у центрі, на заході і за кордоном. Піднімаються так, що ворог не вірить, що це дійсно реальність. Але ми змусимо їх повірити. Змусимо запам'ятати, що до нас їм дороги немає. І ніколи не буде. У Київ, який мужньо і велично стоїть над Дніпром.
Now, Putin's forces continue to attack war-torn Ukraine. 6 were killed on Monday after a massive explosion rocked a supermarket in the capital city of Kiev, leading to mass destruction. My colleague Rajesh brings you more details from on ground. Let's have a look.
There's a lull in the battle on the outskirts of Kyiv city. There has been no fighting in the northeast in the Brovary area, which witnessed a big anti-tank battle a few days back. And the fighting in Irpin, Bucha, Gostomel in that area has also reduced a little bit. There was little fighting but not intense like it was a few days back. However, the city was hit by 2 big missiles yesterday after a gap of almost 4 days. One of the missiles hit a supermarket which was on fire after that, and it is reported that 6 people died in that.
Now, it's 27th day of Putin's invasion and key Ukrainian cities continue to be battered by Russian airstrikes. Several cities, including the capital city of Kiev, has suffered damage from relentless Russian bombardment. In fact, a shopping center in Kiev was heavily damaged after a massive explosion struck Kiev by Russian shelling, leading to 6 deaths. Here's more.
Schools shelled and multiple airstrikes. Ukraine continues to face the unsparing onslaught of Putin's war machine. With the Russian invasion of Ukraine entering its 26th day, the blood is continuing to flow on the streets of Kyiv, Mariupol, and many other cities and towns spread across this big country. Several buildings in the capital city of Kyiv have suffered damage from relentless Russian bombardment in the last 24 hours. A shopping center in Kyiv was heavily damaged after a massive explosion struck the capital city by Russian shelling, leading to at least 6 deaths. Images on your screen show the deadly aftermath of that attack, while rescuers continued to save residents. But the force is advancing from the direction of Hostomel to the
All right, let me quickly cut across to Rajesh Pawar, who's joining us from Kiev. Remember, he's been braving all the assaults coming in from Russian side. He's at the capital city of Kiev, bringing us the factual details from on ground. Rajesh, as we speak on the 27th day, we see that Russia shows no signs of de-escalation. In fact, the forces inch closer. Give us a sense of what are those areas where Russia seems to have taken control. There's no declaration on both ends on that, but what's your assessment on how far have they come in?
Nabila, first let me give you the latest news from Kyiv city. There were about 8 to 10 blasts in the city today morning,
right,
after a long gap, and they seem to me as artillery shells, artillery firing, and that happened somewhere in the east of the city on the outskirts. That was about an hour back. After about half an hour of a warning by the government, which sent SMS to all the citizens that they must take shelter as air raids are expected. And it happened soon after that, after half an hour after that. There were 8 blasts, almost 8 to 9 artillery shells, most likely in the east of Ukraine. Now, coming to your question about the Russian army's advances and what areas are under their control, they have advanced continuously, non-stop in the entire east and south of the country. They are in control of now a lot of territory east of river Dnipro, in eastern parts of Ukraine and in southern parts of Ukraine. Similarly, the Donetsk and Lugansk militia have also made advances in Donetsk Oblast and in Lugansk Oblast. Besides this, what appears to be a strategy of the Russian army is to capture as much of landmass as possible and avoid entering the cities, because that would result in heavy casualties to the Russian forces as well as a lot of collateral damage. Besides this, on the other hand, what looks like a Ukrainian strategy is to reinforce the cities and towns and then be prepared to resist the invasion of the Russian forces inside the cities, lure the Russian forces inside and then ambush them. This appears to be the strategy on the Ukrainian side. Nabila.
Right. You know, Rajesh, you spoke about the number of blasts that happened today as well. Give us an understanding on where were these areas that Russians have attacked and striked at, any casualties from there, and what was the prime target, if you see, as per the pattern?
Look, right now, the road which I'm seeing is totally deserted. I just saw an ambulance, just one ambulance with a Red Cross flag on top, which is going in that direction. That is in the east of the city. They look like not very major blasts. They look more like artillery shelling, and it is in the east of the city. Let me tell you, today there's a complete curfew in the city. There is no movement allowed whatsoever, including that of the journalists.
Would you be able to show us, Rajesh, at all, again, if it's only possible, because we know that you are risking your life while you bring us all those details and those visuals from that war-torn combat areas.
I'm showing you what I can see from a hotel window.
Yeah,
I cannot go outside,
sure,
but if you can see this big white pillar with a star on top,
yes,
golden star, this is a World War II memorial of the people who fought for Soviet Union in the Second World War. And this is an area just 1 kilometer from the main train station, Vokzalna. And this is the direction in which the blast took place, about 8 to 9 of them in the morning today. About an hour back, sorry.
You know,
there's only one vehicle, there's a police vehicle moving.
Yeah, clearly this city, Rajesh, we know has been so bustling. It's such a glorious city now. It bears such a deserted look, and it's heartbreaking to see that civilians have fled, you know, their motherland, where they belong, from where they belong. They had to run away to save their lives, their loved ones. And today we see nothing left of Kiev. But a lot of information, contrary reports coming in on Russian troops not targeting Kiev anymore. How factual is that? Is Kiev really on their radar or not?
Look, Kyiv is very much on the radar because this is the nerve center. This is the seat of power here in Ukraine. Kyiv falls, Ukraine will fall. And Kyiv is the most heavily defended city right now. And as I've said it before, if they try to attack Kyiv, they will witness the mother of all the battles this 21st century has seen so far. It is very heavily fortified, it's very heavily defended, and the Ukrainian forces have concentrated inside Kyiv, and they are bracing up for any Russian attack. And it is on Russian radar for sure. And that is the reason we see a little lull in the battle now, because they are beefing up their supplies, they are stocking up their ammunition and spare parts and other things which are needed for the war. And moment they are ready, moment the breaks, there's a breakdown in the talks, they will go ahead for their offensive against Kiev. Very much on the radar.
You know, Rajesh, as much as Russia may have hoped or expected to enter the capital city of Kiev, which you say is of strategic importance, because if Kiev falls to Russia, then it's almost them declaring victory in this war. But as much as they thought that this would happen sooner, it's now 27 days. Is it because of stiff resistance from the Ukraine forces, or is it Russia really calculating before they up their assault? They're already gunning several residential areas and civilian establishments. So we know that they're not sparing anyone. But what's really taking them so much time to really enter Kiev if it was so easy for them, considering their military might?
Look, I do not think it's because of resistance they did not capture Kyiv or any of the cities. I think it was a part of very well thought strategy, because I think they stepped up this war notch by notch and waited for the response from the Ukrainian political class, from the political leaders of Ukraine about diplomacy, if they can gain that objective without further fighting or not. And when they did not achieve it, they kept upping the ante and started escalating the war. So I think it's a part of very well thought strategy. And having said that, I'm not saying that they could have taken Kyiv so easily, even if they wanted to take it, because as I said, it is heavily fortified city, well enforced right now. So it could have been anyway, but it looks like a part of Russian strategy.
All right, part of Russian strategy, but Ukrainians, they're making heavy claims. In fact, the latest being that they've managed to push out or drive out Russian troops from some of the Kiev suburb areas. Is that factual? Give us an understanding on how that happened. What was the combat like while Ukraine claims that Russian troops entered some of the suburb areas like Makariv and they drove them out?
It is true. It is true. There was a counterattack of Ukrainian forces in the city you just named. But let me tell you, the offensive is not only now from Russian side. Offensive is also going on from Ukraine side. They have launched a number of counterattacks, and they have attacked Donetsk town, which has been under militia, Donetsk militia, for last 8 years. They have heavily bombarded a town with missiles. A lot of these missiles have been intercepted by Russian anti-radar systems, as reported by their media, and some of them have landed inside civilian areas, killing civilians, which was again reported by Russian media, none of which can be verified.
You know, Rajesh, but the talks between the two countries are still ongoing parallelly. Is there any word on progress between the two sides? While we have, again, very contradictory reports coming in on that Ukraine may have stepped down. On the contrary, you have the president himself saying that they remain adamant on their demands and they're not going to budge when it comes to sovereignty, integrity of their country. They're going to stand put.
Look, the diplomacy has been going on parallel with war in these entire last 27 days of war. Now, all eyes are on Brussels. President Biden of the United States will be visiting Europe. He will be in Brussels having a meeting with his NATO allies, will be having a meeting of European Union and G7 countries. Besides that, he will also visit Poland, which is pushing for peacekeepers into Ukraine. So all eyes on President Biden's visit to Europe in the coming few days, and that will decide the entire course of diplomacy and the course of this war in coming few days.
I'd like to understand on the 27th day of this war, Rajesh, how are civilians dealing with it? We know you did mention to me last time that many of whom who have stayed back are those without money, who could be poor, are not finding ways and means to leave their country. Those are the people who unfortunately have been left behind, and they're really struggling for food, water and basic supplies. What's the plight of those civilians who remain in that war-torn country of Ukraine?
Look, Nabila, the spirit of the people here, of the citizens, was amazing. What I witnessed in these cities, they helped everyone, old, poor, small, big, everyone. People were out there to help each other. A lot of these people have been evacuated, and now we have more than 10 million people who are internally displaced or have become refugees in neighboring countries. But the people who are left behind, when I go out in the city sometimes, I see old people generally walking. Some of them are barely able to walk. And it's not just that they were poor or could not leave the city, but a lot of them chose to stay back. And when I ask them sometimes, I talk to them, why have you not gone out when everybody has gone out? They say, this is my home and I will not leave it. Nabila.
You know, thank you very much. And I really appreciate you taking the risk and, of course, giving us all those details from on ground, despite your own city there, Kiev, now being heavily bombarded and targeted by Russian forces. We hear several reports coming in of how Russia is really upping its assault as it inches closer to the capital city of Kiev. Now, here's a look at some of those key images. And these images are satellite images that have been collected over the last 72 hours, which really reveals the continued Russian military activity in a number of key Ukrainian cities. The satellite image on your screens here are from the besieged Ukrainian port city of Mariupol. Images there show deployment of many Russian tanks ready for attack. Russian military vehicles are on streets of the left bank neighboring Mariupol. Artillery forces remain deployed around each of these three cities, and they continue to fire in civilian areas with widespread damage that's been seen on residential buildings, on industrial areas, and of course on complete infrastructure there. Russian forces are now going all out to capture the city of Mariupol and have even entered the heart of the city. Despite the siege on Mariupol, Ukrainians are refusing to give in to the Russian troops.